I know one of the gifts that I've experienced in you through your leadership through and through is your gift in connection.
Mm.
And I was wondering, how did you identify that as a gift, a skill, and then how did you nurture it?
Yeah, I'm gonna talk about recent discoveries in this area, because I could go all the way back to childhood and the experience of growing up being mixed race, um, experiences in my of some really serious mental illness. Like there's all kinds of ways that all of us have a story of how we experience difference, loneliness, etc. And I'll just say, that is true for me as well. But how I came to connection as a gift is really related again to that big transition that I made from being in Ottawa as a public servant, and then moving back to Toronto, which is where I'm from. It's where my family is, and where one of my homes, and yet, I hadn't lived there for a lot of years, and so I found that when I moved back, I just really didn't have, like, many friends, many connections, much network there, and I really went through a period of having to think about, how do I intentionally build that? Like, what does it look like to try and, create that sense of community? And at the same time, or through that time period also, was going on my own journey in terms of, how how much vulnerability and emotional intimacy, that I was seeking in friendships. And then thirdly, I mentioned this already, but I spent some time volunteering on a crisis line, distress centers of Toronto, and that just opened my eyes to the fact that we all need connection. And, the kind of folks that are calling there, for sure, there are some people that are at risk of self-harm and they're in that level of crisis. But it's also a lot of people who are just going through really difficult times and they don't have anyone to talk to. And so the process of both being trained to do that and learning those skills of how to really listen, how to really hold space, but also the sort of realization of like how critical this is and how lacking it is in so many of our lives are, I think, some really big pieces around how I connected with connection. And the thing that often struck me was how often people would say whatever thing they were going through was, I can't talk to my friends about this. I can't talk to my family about this. And for sure, there are some things where really, like, for whatever reason, it's just not going to feel right or make sense to talk to friends or family about this, right? But some of the stuff that people would want some support around were very, like, went through a bad breakup and it was really sitting with the person, lost a job. Like, they were things that I think we should be able to, sorry to should, but I would like to live in a world where we're able to talk to our community members, our friends, our family about these things. And we've lost that. There's such a hyper independence in our world, and this narrative of, again, we were talking about leadership styles, but like, I had a, difficult thing, but I got up and I dusted myself off and, all the metaphors, pulled up my bootstraps and, and moved on. And that's not life. We lose things and we grieve them and it's hard. And so, yeah, that experience I would say was very transformational for me.